How you doing, everyone? Jordan here from SwitchWatch. Today I'm going to be telling you all about Story of Seasons Friends of Mineral Town. This is a remake of Friends of Mineral Town, but previously known by its long-lost franchise title, Harvest Moon. I'm a big fan of these, so despite the endless amount of hours needed to be put into this review, I just had to do it. Let's see what I think. In the age-old time-tested story, some might say cliche, you are one of 4 playable characters, a choice between 2 boys and 2 girls, and you are left a run-down farm that's in need of some major TLC. You arrive in the new town, wet behind the ears, set on making something of your new life here. Building up your farm, meeting up with townsfolk, and perhaps finding the love of your life. As a life sim, the structure of the story isn't quite set in stone and there's a looseness to the narrative. Probably the biggest driver of the game is that of getting married. Giving gifts to the handful of characters, you can see special events as you level up your relationships, which is what most people enjoy about the story aspects of these games. The townspeople are the story here, and while it may not be the best example of the genre these days, it's very much standard of what it was like back in the day. Friends of Mineral Town is a farming life sim, building up your farm, earning the dosh, all the while meeting, greeting and courting half the townfolk. You have your own little farm with a large empty field, a home, chicken coop, barn and so on, and you'll be spending your morning doing the chores, planting crops, tilling the land, sending produce off, tending your animals and so on. There's an air of repetition here, as is often the case, but it's always lovely to see your farm grow and expand from just a few small turnip plants to a multitude of crops, animals and buildings. Once your chores are done, it's time to spend the rest of the day however you like, perhaps fishing, heading into the mines, or doting on a potential mate. Even just being nice to people in the village that you don't even have the hots for can be a nice way to spend time and even get some nice rewards for your hard work. Finding out which gifts people like the most is always fun. It's a bit of a minefield. You get to experience character events and festivals, as well as a couple of mini-games such as cockfighting and horse racing. There are lots of events, some bigger than others, but it's always fun to see them all, even if they may get in the way of your chores from time to time. It's as charming as they come, a simple, idealistic life that many long for. This is video game escapism at its finest, as I'm sure many people out there have felt a longing for something like this, just hanging up your boots or your office tie, turning off your computer in order to live a simpler life, a purer existence. Well, that's the plan anyways, but here there is a lot of time management involved. Due to restrictions in your stamina as well as the frustrating speed at which the minutes blitz by, this is not a game you can relax with. If you want to succeed at this, pretty much every second counts. At the beginning, you'll obviously want to spam as many turnips as humanly possible to capitalize on their quick growth and decent profits, but limitations dictate that you'll probably be able to manage far fewer than you want. Your dinky watering can, your low stamina, and who knows what event or extra thing you want to do in the day, these dictate that you won't be able to do anywhere near as much as you want. Now, there are mediations. You can upgrade your tools by leveling them up, mining ore, and then taking them to the blacksmith, although this puts them out of commission for a while, so you often need to time upgrades with the weather or when you've reaped your rewards of the crops, and even managing around the day that the blacksmith closes. Yeah, that tripped me up one time. You can befriend little sprite dudes and bribe them into helping you with tasks on the farm. At one point, I had pretty much all of them tasked with watering my vast crops, but even that was too much for them. I had to finish it off myself at the end of the day. Although you can train them up to be more efficient by playing some minigames, which is something I actually neglected. I only tried that a couple of times. You can also boost your stamina meter at various points, but not by a whole lot, and these are few and far between. Of course, you can refill your stamina by eating or cooking meals or by diving into the mountain spring. These mediations will come gradually, but still, time feels just a little too frustratingly quick. It's a gimmick that plagues every game of this kind. I get why they do it, but it would be nice if I didn't need to have speed-running strats just to get to the Sprite House and back. In terms of changes from the original, there's not a whole lot, at least from what I can tell. There's same-sex marriages this time around, there's also inventory modernization, a completely new translation, and I believe there are some new crops and animals, but I could be wrong on that. It's been a long time since I played the original. The new translation may rub some people the wrong way considering they changed the names of some of the characters, many of whom appeared in multiple games back in the day, so they do have a bit of a legacy about them with fans. Now, despite the simplistic look to Friends of Mineral Town, there is a lot of depth to the gameplay, lots of little nuances under the hood of the programming that aren't always made abundantly clear to the player, but are a joy to discover yourself. I mean, just jumping into a walkthrough of this game is going to make your head spin with all the things that it has to offer. I remember playing A Wonderful Life on the GameCube back in the day as a kid. That was the main Harvest Moon I played, and it blew me away about all the small touches. There are so many little secrets, so many things that most players won't ever discover, and I appreciate the attention to detail. It is an addictive game. Oh boy, perhaps the time mechanic does have that going for it, as due to the speediness of each day, you always want to do one more, then another, and before you know it's like 2 a.m. and you're wondering how the time has passed so quickly. Being as efficient as possible and maximizing your profit, how much can you handle in one day? It's all super addictive. I just wish it was slightly more relaxing. If you play as slow as I'd prefer, you'd probably be making no money at all, and no money equals no growth, no getting married, and no baby. Now, I just want to say that this is a great game despite the issue with time, and the presentation, which I'll get to in a minute. It was magnificent back in the day, but time has worn it down to just a great farming sim. When you look at Stardew Valley, a game that basically copied the framework here, but then expanded and evolved it, Mineral Town feels like it's standing in its former pupil's shadow. The student has become the headmaster, and the Mineral Town remake has done nothing to fight back. It seems happy in its place. And that's fine. It's still fun. It's still the quintessential story of seasons game. It's just not the best farming sim around anymore. The townsfolk here don't feel as connected to one another and are more rigid and lifeless than Stardew Valley. That's the one thing that really struck me as the difference between this and Stardew. The variety and expansions are also lower. You only have one field and that's about it. It's still great, but it's just not as good as Stardew. Now, I know comparing the remake of a 20-year-old game to a modern masterpiece may seem harsh, but for me it still stands as an argument. This is made by a large team of people, relatively. Stardew was made by one dude. Mineral Town costs 3 times as much money, and yet Stardew is better. A remake can still evolve the original and change aspects to make them better, but Mineral Town sticks too closely. It's still great, but it's definitely not the king of the crop anymore. Visually, look, if I'm being honest, I'm not a fan of the art style that they've gone for here. I don't know what it is with farming sims these days, but pretty much all of them fail to impress in the modern days. Many of them look poorer than the good old days. Here, Marvelous have gone for a standard-looking 3D engine. I know some of you may disagree, but come on, it can and has looked a lot better than this. I think it would have worked out much better if they'd gone for a different art style, or even just stuck to 2D sprites. The spin-off game that we had not too long ago, Doraemon's Story of Seasons, looks much better than this. I'm just spitballing here, but if they'd have gone for a pastel look, similar to like the original Yoshi's Island or something, that would have suited this remake down to the ground. One of the upsides, however, is the character artwork. That is just absolutely fantastic. They look like they've been ripped straight out of a manual from the late 90s, and that is an aesthetic that I can appreciate. The audio isn't a particular highlight either. There are a few catchy tracks here and there, but nothing that really caught my attention or anything that will stick with me after I put the game down. I also didn't like the fact there was no music when it was raining. I mean, come on, give me a little piano twinkle or something. Just, set the mood. So yeah, overall in terms of presentation, I am a little bit, underwhelmed. For me, when growing up, I always associated Harvest Moon as a game that went above and beyond in terms of presentation. This here just plays it so safe. In terms of value, Story of Seasons, Friends of Mineral Town is priced quite heavily. In the UK, it's £42.99, $49.99 in Europe and US in their relative currencies. That's quite a high price, but the brand name and the history is what's marking the price up. Stardew is a third of that price, despite being better in pretty much every aspect. Still, you're going to get a nice 30 or 40 hours from this if you get sucked in like me, and potentially reach the hundreds of hours if you want to be a mental case and do everything the game has to offer, and I'm sure people will. It has that power, and you'll definitely get your money's worth. I think what I'm trying to say is Stardew Valley should be more expensive. Also, Mineral Town is available physically too, in both Europe and North America. You can get this on a nice cartridge with some stickers as a goodie. If you fancy picking this up physically and want to support our YouTube channel at the same time, then we have Amazon links in the description where you can purchase it. If you do so, don't forget to send your pictures to me over on Twitter or in our Discord so I can feature them in our Monday videos. Overall, if you're a big fan of the original or just in the genre in general, then Story of Seasons Friends of Middletown has a lot to offer you. It sticks to the original very, very well, perhaps a little too much, although it's more accessible and richer than ever. Yes, the art style may not be to everyone's taste, including my own, but if you can look past that, you've got one of the best farming sims on the Switch. It's still in the shadow of Stardew, however, but if you're all Stardewed out and you're tired of the new Harvest Moon cash grabs or the disappointing indie attempts, Middletown should be the second game on your list of best in the genre available on the Switch. It's not the master anymore, but it's still a great 8 out of 10. Alright, thanks very much guys, hope you enjoyed this review. It's taken a lot of time for me to do this, but I love doing a good farming sim. Many thanks for watching, especially if you watched all the way to this point. To our subscribers, thank you very, very much, and a big shout out to our executive producers, Brent McLean, God of Resin, Jonathan Rumor, Dane Wilkinson, and Gannicus. Thank you for your support, we'll see you next time, take care.